Well, everybody, welcome back to the Trig Podcast of Joy and Ghost TV on this beautiful day. Today is, what is it, Thursday, right? Wow, 2:30 p.m. here in the Los Angeles, California area, Long Beach, California. Welcome back to my channel. Got my Ghost Bella right here. Let's get ready to take off. Is this going to work? Let's see. It's supposed to be like, there it is. Like a jet passing us by, and I think this is a bell. Okay, a whistle. So let the games begin. Speaking of, I guess, games. Are you into the Olympics? Tokyo 2020, right? But it's being done this year because of the pandemic. And so, I am into the Olympics. I guess this year with everything, I haven't been watching it, but I love track and field. Is there a baseball? I think, right? I love boxing. I love, of course, track and field. So yeah, what is I love gymnastics. I don't think they have football, right? Soccer. But yeah, I love the Olympics. I guess this year it is a little different, but I don't know. I don't even know when it's on. Tokyo, I mean, that's obviously, 17 hours ahead or 20 hours? So it might be more like 5 a.m. here in the U.S. when all the good stuff is. But, I remember the days of Bob Costas in NBC and Dick, what was his name? Dick something, his partner. And I would love watching them broadcast the Olympics from different places all over the world in years past. But talking about Gen X and midlife and how are we managing midlife as Gen X? Us 80s kids. I love being an 80s kids and remembering our high school days. I graduated in 1987. Leave a comment below. When did you graduate from high school? What year? So that means now we're in our 40s, 50s, midlife, right? And so Gen X, Whitney Houston, Prince, Van Halen for me, glam rock, the big hair, Aquanet, the Reeboks, the pumps, parachute pants, jean jackets, leg warmers, right? Aerobics, that was a thing in the 80s. Roller skating, roller blading. I think it was roller skating still for us. Of course, no iPhones. But we were that generation that they call us also the bridgers, right? Or the bridge generation between the boomers, the boomers and the young people. And so we were that bridge generation who have enough tech savviness to be dangerous, but we're not native to it. Obviously, we grew up with dial-up and regular phones, but we were still young enough, I guess 30s and 40s, to learn all about technology. And so now we have this kind of a little bit of both worlds. And yet we are facing, at least for me and for many of my friends, this real shocking reality called midlife. And I've been studying and feeling it and learning all about it for the last maybe 5 years. And I don't really know exactly the age span, and I don't even know if that's all that it's about, an age. Obviously, we're talking about 40s, maybe 50s. But I have seen a couple of graphs that I should look up, especially the one that I love the most. It's called the U midlife graph, the U, which I think is helpful. It's helped me a lot. Maybe it'll help you as a Gen Xer, but leave me a comment below. What is your favorite 80s band? The U chart at midlife. Let's look that up so we can see, when are you the most happy? When are we the happiest? This might surprise you in terms of when we are the least happy. It might not surprise you, but yep, you guessed it is at midlife. But I guess the good news is that it does get better. So they say. So let me bring that up on the screen here so I can show you kind of what this U chart or U graph is all about. And you can determine where you're at on the graph. And it's called the Happiness U Curve. I actually got a book that I've been reading called The Happiness Project. The Happiness Curve, maybe it's even called. I forget the book, but it's amazing. I've been watching all of the TED Talks on it by the author, John something or the other. Great stuff, really helpful on this issue of happiness and of midlife. Because I think that's really the question is, and I mean, some people, especially, I think, people that are sometimes maybe too religious will say, well, it's not about being happy. Well, Tell that to your emotions, right? We all want to be happy. I want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? And so I think that happiness is a part of the equation. And it is important to just be honest with yourself. If you aren't in pursuit of happiness, or if you are happy and that's working for you, then great. But for the rest of us who are pursuing happiness post midlife or at midlife, here's this graph that is really good. So as you can see on there, the happiness U curve, life satisfaction on the left from 6 to 9, and then age on the bottom, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And as you can see, it is the lowest at about 45, and it begins to get better in your, it seems like your late 40s, early 50s. And notice how it gets better with age. I mean, 100? I guess heaven is does make us all happy, right? But isn't that interesting? Maybe you've never seen this U curve, but I've seen it and I've studied it. I have this book, as I said, it's been really helpful. It just has helped me, and I think all of us Gen Xers, to maybe just hang in there, to hang on. And before you get the new wife, the new job, the new, I don't know, Botox, whatever, that you hang in there. That's really the advice of this book that I've read on this very curve. It's hang in there. It's going to get better. This too shall pass. And so, but at the same time, I do think that there is a place to just try new things. That's maybe the other conclusion of this book, is to don't lose your sense of adventure, that there is still much happiness to be had. I would say another conclusion is that happiness, though, will probably look different. It'll be simpler. It'll be more based on the true you, not so much on what you thought was your happiness. So as an Enneagram 3, my happiness always, I thought, would be on numbers. More people, more fans, more likes, everything. More external affirmation, out in versus inside out. But I'm realizing that now post or at midlife, I'm 52, and I've been now in this season of, of turmoil and lowness for about 5 years, maybe 10. As I'm hoping that I'm coming out of this, we'll see. I'm realizing that it will be based more on the true me, which is someone who loves to, yes, I love to shine still and love to be on stage and be that, but to complement that, maybe even to surrender or to bow down to serving other people, to love, really. Now, depending on your type, 1, 2, 3 through 9, you will have to ponder upon yourself, and of course I can help you with that, what it is that you need to go back to. It is a return to Eden that I think this you is really displaying. Is Eden was what we all were as kids. My mom would say that I was always a happy kid, quiet. And I also had really good friends. I had a few good friends. I was a happy kid, just really mischievous, adventurous, but quiet, and not necessarily looking for the spotlight. And that's still true of me. But in, what do they call it? In personality, I think that's what they call it. When I'm in my ego, you could say, I can tend to move to that unhealthy 3, which is looking for so much achievement and success that it drives people away and it hurts me and others. And I definitely have done that. But as I transition and as life humbles me, my success right now is at its lowest that it's ever been in every area of my life. But what remains is actually very solid. My faith, my love for my wife, our children, the basics, my mom, my uncle, my father-in-law who's been staying with us. Those are the things that are praying for a family member or a friend of the family whose dad just passed away. Making other people better. Now, my ego's still bruised, of course, when it's not my name on the plaque or on the door. But I'm realizing that crucifixion is very important, or as Joseph Campbell would call it, that atonement, the death of the ego, of the self, of the hurts. And that hurt that has been there for many years is what Jesus is trying to heal through this U curve, through this happiness, in that in that in that crucible at the bottom there of the barrel at 45 to 50. And I think that curve obviously can shift left and right, because I think that I'm actually experiencing the bottom right now at 52. So my upswing isn't quite there yet. I don't quite feel it. Maybe it's happening. I just don't. Maybe I'm not experiencing it. But it is very important to at least know where you're at. And if you're not quite there yet, if you're maybe in your 20s or 30s, then you might be experiencing what they call a quarter life crisis. I think that there are, obviously the pandemic and all these things. You can even maybe say that a lot of this chart has been moved up by 2-3 years because of the pandemic. So maybe you went through a crisis 5 years ago and now you're in it again because of this pandemic. So I wonder if this pandemic would affect this chart, being that this is such a once in a lifetime event. I would say so. I think it has for me. I think my you has been extended, unfortunately, because of this pandemic. I think I was coming out of it perhaps maybe 3 years ago, and then all this stuff happened with politics, the church, and then this pandemic. So, but the good news, again, is that we will get through this. Hang in there is what this book talks about. This too shall pass. But return to Egypt. Return to your heart. Return to your mind. Return to your joy. So, based on Enneagram type. So, practically what that looks like for the 3, speaking just from my experience, is that whenever I have to humble myself, which is never going to be natural for me, that's what I need to do. I need to pursue humility. Not be humble, not act humble, not pray humble verses, or ask God for humility. That's all good and fine. But it's actually pursue places where you are going to be humbled, where you are serving other people. So a simple thing, the other day I was playing the keyboard. I bought this brand new keyboard that's beautiful. Oh, I love it. It's the Norge Stage 2 if you're into keyboards. It's just gorgeous. Plays itself. But I have another friend who plays keyboard. And so I took it to church, and instead of me being on the keyboard, playing it, and therefore maybe showing my skills or being admired, back to the 3, for the beauty of this keyboard and the sounds and me playing it and me singing. Instead, this whole couple of weeks, I've been just setting up the keyboard for my friend. Not only that, but the amp. Not only that, but the in-ears. Basically, the whole thing. The other day, I was even vacuuming the area where he sits, setting up the chairs where he sits, looking for cables for him. You might think that's no big deal for you. For me, that is a big deal. I'm used to being the person who's being served. I'm not used to it. That's what I want. But this how do you turn the corner? Is you put yourself, this is for the 3, in places where you are forcing yourself to be humbled, and you take the humility tests, the humility opportunities on, and you do vacuum the keyboard area, even though you're not going to play that keyboard. You're not going to sing. You're not going to be admired. You're serving somebody else. Now, how does that work in reality? How does that make you happy? Well, going back to Eden, I've always wanted to play with other people and to have a great sounding band. And if I play the keyboard and the guitar and the bass and I'm running sound, I'm going to be alone, which is what's happened. And the 3s, we deal with a lot of loneliness because we isolate ourselves. And we are so amazing that we leave everyone else behind. And then we don't get what we want, which is love and community. The 6 part of the 3. The 3 goes to the 6 in health, which is the community, the bonding, the making other people better, the friendship, the team. And really, at the end of the day, the 3 truly thrives, truly thrives in relationship with other people, because that's the best way. Think of LeBron. LeBron is a 3. And yes, it's all about LeBron and his movie and Space Jam right now and tweeting and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he really wants to make AD better. And Lonzo when he was around, and Kyle Kuzma and the Lakers and Kobe. That's his real joy, his son, his wife. is to succeed through others, because that takes him back to Akron, Ohio, when he was that kid and somebody built into him. It's very emotional for me as well, not so much his story, but just thinking of my story. All of us as threes, and this is specific to threes, but it might relate to everyone. Our Eden is really where our true joy, peace, love really is. For the three, we have to get in touch with our hearts. And so when I help my keyboard player, the way that my heart is engaged is not so much maybe in the music, because maybe I am better than him or her or whoever. It's more that at least as I've been thinking about my friend, it's the redemptive story behind the keyboard. It's the fact that he has a son that needs love, and that there could be a redemptive hope healing story in that relationship through the fact that I am vacuuming the keyboard area. So it's deeper than just the keyboard. So that's how we get through this midlife curve, my dear Gen Xers. And that's what I'm learning. There's so much more, of course. As I said, each type has their own journey back to Eden, each personality type, each Enneagram type, and each person is, especially as Gen Xers, we're in the middle of this. I would love to know where you're at on this journey. What are you learning? Are you one who watches TED Talks? I've watched a bunch of TED Talks on this for the last maybe 5 years. Actually, my most popular video on YouTube is called something about midlife. And so I know this is an important topic. As I've said, some people may say, oh, whatever, just trust in God. And that's great. But some of us, we can't help but just be a little more broken, I guess, and deeper. And we want more. We want to understand how to get through this, how to make sense of it. And so if you are one of those types, then this is for you. I hope that helps. And let me know, of course, in the comments, how are you working out the midlife? Here it is, my coaching whistle. Let's see, I'm just going to play with this for a second. What else do I have here? Oh, see, I should do that one anytime that I say something smart, which happens a lot. I mean, come on, wake up in the mornings, right? There you go. Speaking of the Olympics, I'm a big boxing fan. So there you have it, my dear friends. Thank you so much for being here. I love all of you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.